Hey everybody, just a quick disclaimer before we begin. This game, Abomination, has a little bit more mature themes, a fair amount of gore and body parts and animal parts. So that's just a heads up before you view the rest of this video if you're watching. Welcome back to a special edition of Talking Cardboard. You'll notice we may be missing an important member of this team. We still have John, myself, Jurch, and Corey. However, we needed to make a noble sacrifice in order to use the body parts for a higher cause. So John, can you give a brief overview of this really macabre, horror, gut-wrenching game?
Yeah, at its core, Abomination is a heavy Euro game. You've got a lot of worker placement, and basically what you're doing is you're sending your assistants and your main scientist guy out into the town of, I think it's Paris,
Yep.
To collect these body parts, bones, blood, and you're using these to create your Frankenstein's monster. You can send your people to the morgue, you can send people to the back alley to commit a murder, basically, to get like the freshest body parts possible. And basically, as you create the body parts, you get more points based on how fresh of body parts you use. So although going and murdering someone in the alley is going to get you these really nice parts, it does affect your humanity, which is also important for other aspects of the game and end game scoring. Other things you have to worry about with your characters, your reputation, and
Your knowledge,
which you have to build up your knowledge in order to build certain body parts onto your little board. And your reputation helps, I believe, with like certain actions you can take in the game and like money you make. But there's a lot of balancing out all these aspects, and really, like I said, the gist of it is you're trying to build a Frankenstein's monster before the end of the game. So
it's not easy or simple to create life.
No.
You need to be smart, you need to have a level of humanity, you need some good standing. At the end of the day, you need to be able to get your hands dirty.
Yes, that is true in this game especially.
So Corey, what are your pros to this game?
I have a lot of pros. Like John said, this is a heavy Euro-style worker placement game, right in my alley, exactly what I like to see in a game. But it's really heavy too. It's really heavy. There's a lot going on. There's 3 different dials you're trying to manipulate and manage throughout the game. Manage with a capital M, because there is, every dial affects what you're doing so harshly. The body parts age and deteriorate, and over time eventually just rot and get thrown out, so you have to manage that. There's ice cubes you can buy to keep them on ice to better manage that. I guess manage is the best word to describe this game, but that's what I like about it. Very thematic. The theme is awesome too. I'm not usually into the more thematic games, but when they throw a theme like this onto a Euro game, it just makes it all that much better.
Right, and that's definitely where one of my biggest pros comes in, is that outside of just it being a good, solid Euro, is you have the turn counter, and basically what you're doing each turn is you're drawing a card off a stack, and it's basically a story card.
So layered more than just the basic theme of a horror game, this is essentially a sequel to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. The 2 major parties working behind the scenes are Captain Walton, spoiler alert, from the book, and the monster are kind of pulling the strings on build this creation, or I'm getting in the way of you accomplishing this goal. It is crazy, like second layer thematic, because it's building off of a world that already exists. So John, what do you think about that, as somebody who definitely read the first 2/3 of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but you didn't read the end of it in high school?
I read the whole book, or Cliff's Notes did, okay? I don't know. But yeah, no, I definitely think that is one of the bigger pros of the game, because while this is a good solid Euro, I do like that story being a part of it, and you can be visited by the monster in the game and receive positive or negative effects based on what else is going on your board. So I think that's really cool.
And they do that very cleverly with the deck of cards too. Plaid Hat Games, the publisher of this game, is very famous for that. They started that with the Dead of Winter game and all the spin-offs, where I forget what the deck is called in Dead of Winter. It has a specific engine to it, or whatever Plaid Hat Games decided to call it, but is basically it keeps the story moving and it keeps it inconsistent, fresh.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things about it too is that there are some cards where it'll say read it to yourself, and if X happens in the game, then resolve the card. So you never know, what you have to do to trigger certain thematic events.
Yeah, you just see someone there sitting with that story card, and you're like, oh boy,
when is it going to happen?
Is this good or bad, and what do I have to avoid or try to do to make this happen?
And it's never good. And that builds off of it too. It is even in the thematic structure of these event cards, which is progressing the game, is you get choices. So we're not going to reveal any of that, but there is a storybook, couple of pages, where you have to make choices sometimes at gunpoint.
Yeah.
And then you decide, am I going to do this or am I going to do that? It's almost like Betrayal at House on a Hill a little bit. Not nearly as deep or convoluted in terms of reading through the instructions, but just that little bit where you have a choice and it will impact either you specifically or the entire round.
Yep. Some of the impact. Well, maybe I don't want to say what the impacts are.
Yes, correct. You don't, but
they're interesting.
Yeah. So we could continue to gush over this game. Do we have any cons or any negatives of this, John, that you think?
I mean, really, the only thing I can say about this is it is a very deep, complex game, and if that's not up your alley, you're going to struggle through this. But that's really all I have to say. Otherwise, I think really everything in this game works for what it's trying to do.
Yeah, I remember our first playthrough of this. It took at least 4 hours.
Yeah.
The game is, the duration on the box says 60 to 120 minutes. They undersell that, or they undercut it. It's a longer game. It's a heavy game. Yep. Like I said, first playthrough, 4 hours. So that's really a drag.
Yep, that's my con with it too. It is a longer game. Definitely a 3 hour minimum, depending on the player count. But yeah, that's pretty much the only con for me. The only other minor con possibly is that the actions become a little bit samey after a while. I mean, the story and the theme keep it fresh each and every game. But I could see this, or I could see me wanting an expansion to this game sometime in the near future.
Yeah, so Mary Shelley, get on it. Write a sequel to Frankenstein.
She's still alive?
No, but we could raise her from the dead.
There you go.
Now, obviously, because this is a Euro-style game, and we've alluded to it a whole bunch, it's really heavy. It is really skilled. There's very little luck in it. I mean, the bodies that are available to you, the parts at certain points, but you can make your own luck.
Right, exactly.
Whether it's, going down to the dark alley.
Just murdering someone.
Yep, or hiring somebody to do it. Or you could be finding animal body parts.
Yep.
So you can kind of make your own luck.
Or you can grave rob graves for real disgusting old parts and bones.
Yeah, pretty much just
Which is a viable strategy too.
Yes.
I mean, you can either spend a lot of time and work and effort to get those best fresh parts and do what you can with that, which you get more points for, or you can try to do more of the bad parts.
And just try to get a full monster produced.
Try to get that.
Sometimes you do find yourself getting towards those final turns and you're at maybe a few body limbs.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And then you're just panicked trying to get this thing pumped to life right at the end. And there is a bit of a sprint.
Yep.
A little bit, yeah.
So what level of player do you think we would need to have in order to jump into this? Because obviously it's not for everybody. Obviously it's not for new gamers or people who are on the fence. What level of experience do you think a person would need to have in order to really get a lot out of this game?
Oh boy. They would have to be very invested in the game hobby, I would think, to break into this.
At least have played a couple of Euros to understand the main mechanics of the game. I mean, the side stuff with the blood and the bones and creating your zombies, its own learning, but just knowing how a Euro works in general is kind of really the base requirement, I'd say.
Definitely, and I mean, if you've played a couple of like the lighter Euros too, and you're really liking that, and you're a new gamer, I would stick with that. With that for a little while, maybe a year or 10 years before picking. No, I don't. But anyway, it's going to take definitely a seasoned gamer.
But it's worth it.
It is.
We love this game. I pre-ordered it and we played it a whole bunch before Halloween. It's super themey. It adds a different layer of horror theme than say like Horrified or like you mentioned Dead of Winter or Betrayal at House on a Hill. It all circulates around this horror and macabre theming.
Yeah.
And it's just another flavor for you. So we talked the pros, the cons, very heavy Euro-style game. There's a lot of skill, almost no luck. And again, we do want to mention that this is not typically for kids. A lot of the actions that go into it, if we're talking about murder, a lot of the cards where you're harvesting the participants, either willing or unwilling, they do not hold back. That you see body parts that are missing, you see freshly killed cadavers.
Yep.
So if that's not something that you want to immerse yourself in, steer clear of this game.
Yeah, kids or not. If that's not your style,
yes,
or what you enjoy, steer clear. But
Yeah. So it's in that respect, it's not for everybody. But if that's up your play style, this game is well worth it. So without further ado, we can go to our final ratings and final recommendation.
Yep.
John, what do you think?
I'm going to give this game a 7 out of 10. I do enjoy it. I like Euros. This one is a little long. That's the only thing that really knocks it down. And even at 3 players, like we were saying, you're sitting at 2 to 3 hours.
At least,
And I am very scared to play with 4 players.
yeah.
But other than that, everything's great.
Yeah. I'd probably go a 9 because it took 9 hours to originally get this game set up and played.
That's a good reason.
But other than that, with Euro-style games, the more that you play the game, you understand the nuances of it, and it takes less time for you to figure out what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then you can start going deeper and seeing some of the meta in the game. So it's a game that ages well, unlike body parts from the cemetery when you're grave robbing.
Exactly.
It ages well so that it will go faster and faster, and you can immerse yourself in more. So a 9, but it is holding me back from a 10 because it's really taxing mentally.
Yeah.
And then Corey?
Yeah, I'm right up there at an 8 out of 10. Really enjoy the game, really love it. Like George said, the game should not last as long. The more plays you get, the more familiar you become with the actions and the mechanisms and how the whole thing works. Having said that, it still is an at least 2.5, 3 hour game, even at a 3-player player count, which is holding it back from a 9 or even a 10 out of 10. Like, this is, I don't know, I love everything else about it. Obviously, it's taxing on the brain, but I do enjoy that. I love the strategy. I love how deep it is. I love everything else about it. Just the time length to play. It's really hard to get it to the table. Even the number of times that we've gotten it to the table, it's been quite a few. I feel like we probably would have brought it out even more if it wasn't as long.
Yes.
Right.
So it's an 8 out of 10 for me.
But you can't rush creating life. I mean, we're doing this in a couple of, days, like 12 days, and normally it takes humanity 9 months to create life. So I pre-ordered this game, so obviously I'm a buy. But we've said because it's really heavy, the theme is kind of off-putting for people. I don't know if I'd recommend it for every game group.
I wouldn't either.
But for us, and probably if you're watching this video, then you should at least check it out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, if you've stuck with us through this whole video, then you're probably interested in it.
Yeah, right.
It's totally worth it for me, but it may not be for everybody. However, if this is your taste, this is your theme, you are going to love this game. So without further ado, this is what's remaining of Talking Cardboard until we need some more fresh parts. So until next time, please avoid any dark French alleyways if you're in the 1800s. Just saying.
Hey guys, you see my arm?